Welcome to Comment with me, George Galloway, here on Press TV, still the voice of the voiceless. This is the big conversation, this is the great debate, but only if you join in. That's why, above all, I need your telephone calls on 44-208-601-4555, or you can SMS the show on 447800008066, or email me at comment@presstv.co.uk. You call us, we'll call you back, establish a clear line, and remember, if you get on the television with me, then your television has to have its volume switched down at 0, or no one will understand either of us. Well, plenty to talk about this evening. The greatest scientific mind since Professor Albert Einstein, who I remind you refused to become the first president of what they call Israel, stating that he could not be president of a country whose future happiness was built on the past disaster visited on the people whose land had been colonized. The greatest mind since Einstein is, of course, Professor Stephen Hawking. He told Shimon Peres, the so-called president of Israel, over the last few days that he would not contemplate attending a conference in occupied Palestine because of the Israeli government's crimes against the Palestinian people. It is an outstanding victory for the campaign to boycott all things Israeli. No recognition, no normalization, no negotiation, except through the Palestine Liberation Organization, if they so please. That's my stance. It's not exactly Professor Hawking's, but he has dealt a body blow to the Zionist state, and the settler mentality has been out in force ever since. The insults, the attacks on this great mind, Hawking, has been shameful to say the least. On Twitter, on Facebook, in sections of the Israeli media, personal insults about the physical incapacities of Professor Hawking have been everywhere. It's been a disaster, an all-round disaster for what they call Israel. First, Hawking refused to go, and second, the shameful way in which sections of Israeli public opinion have responded has darkened Israel's name around the world, as if that could be any darker. We'll be talking about Palestine in the round. The Mufti of Jerusalem, can you believe it? The Mufti of Al-Quds was taken from his home by Israeli gangsters in uniform and held prisoner for 13 hours and grilled, interrogated by them. Yesterday, the Isha prayer was forbidden to the faithful people in Al-Aqsa itself. And I have a picture this morning of the faithful praying on the street outside. Mosques have been desecrated by the so-called Israel Defense Force. Israeli settlers are running amok, killing people, attacking people, beating up old men and old women. It's all going pear-shaped for what they call Israel, which might be the reason why they sought to divert attention by not one but two airstrikes against the neighboring Syrian Arab Republic. Or it may be that the Israeli Air Force was merely trying to take the military pressure off their allies in the imperialist-backed, Al-Qaeda-influenced opposition insurgency in Syria, which has itself been bringing disgrace upon it. In the last few days, a very precious and holy Islamic shrine has been desecrated by these people who posed for pictures whilst desecrating a religious shrine. They dug up the body, exhumed the body of a companion of the Prophet. You really couldn't make it up by people who are forever telling us that God is great, at least when there's a Fox News camera around to capture it. And it may be that all of this is a reflection of a change in the balance, the military balance of power in this epic struggle that has now been conducted for more than 2 years. The military balance and the advantage appears to have moved decisively towards the government of Syria and the Syrian army, which may be why John Kerry went to Moscow and asked President Putin to get the United States off the hook, a hook which they put themselves on. The United States government and the Russian government have attempted now to resuscitate the Geneva process, a political process which can lead to a democratic transition in Syria, which is actually the only way that it can be done. Said Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of the Lebanese resistance, has been on the television over the last few hours, making it clear that any further Israeli attacks upon Syria will be answered immediately. And Said Hassan said that the Lebanese resistance has unique weapons with which it can punish what they call Israel for any further invasion of the airspace or the land of Syria. Well, lots to discuss, all that and more coming up. Lever's on the line. He's in Manchester in England, but wants to talk about Israel. Lever, welcome to the show.
Hello, it's a privilege to be on the show.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to make it clear first, I'm a person of Jewish descent.
Yeah.
I want to make a general statement on the Israeli-Palestinian situation.
Go on.
It feels that the Israeli regime treat the Palestinians and others through the eye of revenge for what's happened to the Jews in the Nazi concentration camps. They should know more than anyone not to treat peoples as subhuman.
Yeah.
It's time to look forward, not backwards, in peace.
Well, I certainly agree with that, Lever. In the round, I think that the Zionist leaders use the suffering of the Jewish people and many others, of course, in the Holocaust with a capital H, the one that took place in Christian Nazi-occupied Europe, that they use the atrocities that were committed then to try to leverage support for their illegal state, their settler state. But of course they had begun the project of trying to steal Palestine from the people who lived there much earlier than that. And indeed, as many Israeli revisionist historians have subsequently made clear in recent years, the Zionist idea is, of course, the other side of the coin from the Nazi idea. The Nazi says that a German Jew is not a German, that a Hungarian Jew is not a Hungarian, and they mustn't live in Germany or Hungary or anywhere else. They must go and live in somebody else's country a long way away and with which they have absolutely no connection whatsoever. The Zionist says, well, exactly the same thing. The Zionist says that the Jew in England, you, Lever, in Manchester, you're not really English. You must not be allowed to remain in England. You have a duty to go to Palestine, or what they now call Israel. Two sides of the same coin. Gary's a clever man in Halifax, Nova Scotia, in Canada, in North America. He wants to talk about the same thing. Gary, welcome back.
You remain in England. You have a duty.
Go on, Gary.
Palestine, or what they now call Israel.
Gary, turn your volume down.
Gary's a clever man in Halifax, Nova Scotia, in Canada.
Oh, Gary. Oh, dear. Elementary. Gary.
Good evening.
Yes. Put the volume on your TV down and go ahead.
Good evening, George.
Good evening, sir.
I had the great luck earlier today to watch Syed Hassan Nasrallah deliver his remarks over Press TV.
Yes.
And with excellent translation capabilities that they provide.
Very, very brilliant translation, yes.
Because it's actually simultaneous translation.
Yeah, yeah.
And you don't have to, when he ends his sentences, the translator ends the sentences.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know him well in Beirut. He's a brilliant translator.
Ali Risk, yeah. The most interesting development out of Nasrallah's speaking today were the remarks, I felt, were the remarks about the Golan Heights.
Yes.
Hezbollah has now laid down a very, very significant marker. Nasrallah explained about the strategic relationship between Hezbollah and Syria as two parts of the resistance to Zionism.
Yep.
And what he pointed out today was that there's a reason why Syria doesn't just pop off and retaliate against these recent Israeli bombings. They take a strategic view. They get together with their allies in the resistance, and one of the products of that getting together and formulating was announced by Sayed Nasrallah today, which is that if the Israelis want to carry on with this business of helping these basically fascist al-Qaeda gangs try and tear up Syria, Hezbollah will move heaven and earth to assist the redevelopment of the resistance to the Zionist occupation of the Golan Heights. This will be a game changer, because unlike many others who have maybe made threats or promises to do something to get rid of the Zionist yoke, Hezbollah has the honor of having actually defeated the Israeli troops on the ground. So we shall see.
Well, Hezbollah are a very formidable political and military force. They have mass support in Lebanon and in many other parts of the world. Their leader never makes false promises. Everything he promises, he delivers. If he couldn't deliver, he wouldn't make the promise. So I agree with you. His speech this evening was very portentous indeed. No doubt we'll talk again about it, Gary. Fahim is on the line from Iran on Syria. Fahim, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. George. Actually, it has been a long time that I've not talked to you now, but now it's my pleasure that I'm talking to you, actually. Just very briefly about the Syrian crisis, actually. I believe that the plan that was previously proposed by Russia, based on the formation of a contact group in which all related parties to the Syrian crisis would gather to reach a solution, was a suitable plan, actually. However, it was unfortunately never established due to the U.S. disagreement. The reality is that the crisis in Syria cannot be solved inside this country. I mean that the regional and international players play a very important role in the progress of this crisis. As long as all of these parties do not gather in a meeting to reach an agreement on a plan, solving this crisis is very, very difficult. Therefore, all domestic, regional, and international players must agree on a plan to reach a solution. Of course, other solutions like the Islamic Republic of Iran, Egypt, and Russia's plan actually can help Syria to find a solution for its problem. But the final solution to the Syrian crisis can be found when all effective players and elements agree on a single plan and commit themselves to do it.
Well, I did notice that the statement made by John Kerry and Mr. Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, did not go down too well in the ranks of the so-called Free Syrian Army, which is neither free nor particularly Syrian, and not much of an army. Al-Qaeda is their army, but the Free Syrian Army are receiving very, very large sums of foreign money. So their point of view is important. And they did not react positively to the proposal to a re-energizing of the Geneva process. This is going to have to be resolved from outside. Iran is an important player in this whole conundrum and cannot be kept out of the solution. Neither can Russia. Neither can, for that matter, Turkey. And neither can the United States, because all of these are key actors in this very bloody drama. So, the best thing to do is to get round the negotiating table. The Syrian government has already said that it's ready to do that, to agree on a political process of a transition to democracy in Syria. That's what could have been done a long time ago. It's well overdue. Syria is being torn to pieces. Shrines are being destroyed in front of our eyes. Young students blown to pieces in universities by suicide bombers from an openly self-declared Al-Qaeda front. This front is openly allied with Al-Qaeda in Iraq and has pledged its allegiance to Ayman al-Zawahiri, the successor to Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda. So you take your pick, Fahim. I'm actually with Mr. Lavrov and the effort to resolve this politically. William Hague, on the other hand, the British foreign minister, is still with Al-Qaeda. And when the United Nations itself accused Al-Qaeda of using chemical weapons in Syria rather than last week's canard that the Syrian regime had used them, Hague says he doesn't care what the United Nations says. As far as he's concerned, it was the Syrian regime, and his support is fully behind Al-Qaeda. Well, we'll see what happens when the United States jumps off that sinking ship. Let's see how long the British and the French stay on it. Mahmoud is on the line in Sweden on the subject of Israel. Mahmoud, welcome.
Hello, George.
Welcome back. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll greet you. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
And hallelujah.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Here in Sweden today is a holiday. It's day when the Jesus ascended to heaven. I don't know if you have a holiday in Britain there.
No, we had a holiday on Monday, and it was a very nice one. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Mahmoud.
Okay. There was also a holiday in Red Square in Russia, Moscow. I watched it live, and it was very, very nice.
Very impressive. Like old times. It warmed the cockles of my heart.
It's a good deterrent to United States of America. The Russians have modified their weapons, and they said that the world is very dangerous because NATO is moving closer and closer to us. Okay, my point is about these Palestinians. George Galloway, we have to remember that young lady 10 years ago who gave her life. She was a white American, and she's Christian. Her name is Rachel.
Rachel Corrie, yes. God rest her soul.
You know her. I think her name must be written with a golden ink, and we shall never forget. We shall not let her blood wasted, because last year is when her father went to Israel to sue that driver who bulldozed her and killed her, and the answer he got that she is the one who brought this death to herself, and the father left the country very disappointed.
Yeah, her parents, Mahmoud, the parents of Rachel Corrie and the English boy, Tom Herndl, and other family members have refused to allow the murder of their children, for that's what it was, the murder of their children, to go unpunished. They have refused to allow their children to be forgotten. And as you say, their names are not just written in golden ink, but for me, written in the stars. Niall is on the line, always worth hearing from him. He's in the Emerald Isle in Ireland on Israel and Syria. Niall, welcome back.
Greetings, comrade.
Greetings to you. Go ahead, sir.
George, just want to start off with Stephen Hawking and Israel. I thought it was a very, very courageous move and stance, principal stance by the world's greatest living scientist at this time. And the reason why, George, he didn't go to Israel to speak at the event with Shimon Peres was because the university, which is in Ariel in occupied Palestine, was built on land that was previously owned by Christian and Muslim Palestinian farmers, whom the Israelis took from them in 1975 about nearly 40 years ago. And on the 68th anniversary of the victory of the Red Army over Nazi Germany, today in Jericho, the Israeli army destroyed the homes of 3 Palestinians in an act that can be described as a Lebensraum, to create a space for more settlers. And these people were driven off their lands. It's like fascism is repeating today in Israel. It's absolutely shocking. And as I said, it's a great victory. Stephen Hawking stands a great victory for the boycott, divestment movement worldwide. Fantastic. Great news.
It must have been a bitter blow, Niall, for the Zionist state. They first tried to throw sand in our eyes by claiming that Professor Hawking had called off from the conference on health grounds. But then Professor Hawking released his letter to the President's conference, President Shimon Peres, as they call him, which made it clear, as you just have, that he was not prepared to break the boycott and believed that boycott of this state, this illegitimate state, is a legitimate tactic to come to the aid of the Palestinian people. It must have been very hard for them now.
Yeah, it was, George. It was completely unexpected because Stephen Hawking had previously visited Israel twice, and he spoke against the attacks in Gaza in 2009, and he wanted to come to Israel again to challenge Shimon Peres over Israel's conduct against the Palestinians. And especially when he found out that the land in which the university was built upon was actually confiscated from Palestinian villagers. I think this forced him to make his stand.
Now, thanks for the call, brother. Mama's on the line in Gambia. Let's hear what Mama wants to say. Mama, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to commend the physician for not accepting to attend the meeting at Israel. I commend him for that. And secondly, Israel is doing heinous things against the Palestinians. They used very serious chemicals against Palestinians some years back. The whole world, even the United Nations, cannot say anything about that. Now they want to succumb Syrian government, who is protecting its people. And they are now accusing Israel that it is the Syrian government that is using chemicals against its own people. What kind of human being are they?
Well, they're liars. They're liars. And when I watched William Hague make these accusations, I knew that he was lying. And moreover, he knows that I know that he's lying. And I've been here before. I watched Tony Blair's lips move, and exactly the same kind of lies tumble forth in the run-up to the war upon Iraq, which killed 1 million Iraqis. It was a lie then, it's a lie now. And moreover, just a few days ago, the United Nations Special Rapporteur said, if there has been a use of chemical weapons, it was Al-Qaeda who used the chemical weapons. Who gave Al-Qaeda the chemical weapons? Here's my theory. Israel gave them the chemical weapons so that they would use them, so that it would bring the international community into the final destruction of Syria. But it's not going to happen. The West is not going to be able to destroy Syria. The Syrian people have resisted. The tide has turned. And now it's the Americans who are looking for negotiations and asking President Putin to get them off the hook that their own foolishness has put them on in the first place. A pity so many tens of thousands of people had to give their lives in order to reach this point. I'll be back, God willing, after the news in just a few minutes' time, talking about Stephen Hawking, talking about the airstrike, talking about the desecration of shrines, and talking about Google, which has just redrawn its map. Palestine is back. I'll be right back too, God willing. Welcome back to Comment with me, George Galloway, here on Press TV, still the voice of the voiceless. Professor Stephen Hawking, the greatest genius since Einstein, has dealt a body blow to the Zionist state by publicly declaring that he's boycotting their state and boycotting their conference, which is nonetheless being attended by a glittering galère of criminals. Ex-President Bill Clinton, ex-Prime Minister Tony Blair are amongst two of the individuals who will be disgracing that conference. But they will not be able to rub shoulders with the greatest mind of this last half-century. Stephen Hawking, the world-famous scientist, was traduced and maligned and smeared, as well as ridiculed for his physical condition in many sections of the Israeli media and by Israeli citizens across the social media, thus compounding, actually, their shame at the delegitimization which Professor Hawking's decision represents. We're talking about that very Zionist state's repeated airstrikes against Syria. What's going to happen about them? Is the world going to do anything about this rather unusual concept of preemptive strikes against your neighbor when your neighbor is already fighting a war against Al-Qaeda and you are supporting Al-Qaeda? Very novel set of circumstances indeed. And the leader of the Lebanese resistance, Said Hassan Nasrallah, has spoken this evening very portentously indeed. And the so-called Syrian rebels have disgraced themselves still further by digging up a companion of the Prophet, desecrating a religious shrine in Syria. So serious a desecration does this represent that Indian Muslims have declared tomorrow Black Friday to protest against this grotesque desecration of Islamic holy places by people who are never done telling us how religious they are. And Google has earned the enmity of the Zionist state too. It has declared that the Palestinian territories will henceforth be known as Palestine. A very useful redrawing of the map. Well done, Google, and it's not often I say that. The Mufti of Jerusalem was arrested by the Zionist gangs this week, taken from his home and held for 13 hours and grilled, interrogated. Imagine the Mufti of Al-Quds arrested by foreign gangsters. What did the Islamic world's governments have to say about it? What did they do about it? Nothing. The United Nations, meanwhile, has condemned the Israeli segregation of East Jerusalem, which has led to a situation where more than 80% of Palestinian children in East Jerusalem are living in poverty. What's the Islamic world doing about that? Yes, you guessed it. Craig's on the line from London to talk about these subjects. Craig, welcome to the show.
Hi, George. How are you?
By the grace of God, I'm well. Go ahead.
I like to say I'm here in the West. The likes of you, the far-right extremists, are sitting back. And trying to defend Bashar al-Assad indiscriminately killing men, women, and children.
When was I doing that, Craig?
Well, you're defending him.
When did I defend him? What, do you mean when I called for support for John Kerry and Sergei Lavrov and President Putin to convene a conference in Geneva to have a political transition to democracy in Syria? Is that what you mean?
Yes, when Israel tried to defend these people, you...
No, Craig, answer me. Did you mean when I supported the Russian-American plan for a negotiated transition to democracy in Syria just a few moments ago? Is that what you meant?
it was anti-Semite.
You're just a liar. You're just a liar, Craig. Get off the line. Get off the line. You're polluting my airwaves. Let's hear from somebody more sensible. We're talking about Palestine and we're talking about Syria. Craig didn't do a very good job representing the forces that are opposed to my perspective. Let's hope someone with a bit more, well, how shall I put it, savoir-faire comes along in the next 25 minutes or so and puts a better argument. Abdul is in Durham, in England, wants to talk about Palestine. Abdul, welcome.
Hello, George.
Hello, sir.
I just want to talk about the Grand Mufti of the Al-Aqsa Mosque being arrested. Yeah. It did not come as a surprise to me that now that Bibi Netanyahu is in power, because if you remember in 1996, when he was in power, he ordered the opening of a tunnel under the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which led to a lot of protests, and 90 Palestinians were shot. Apparently, Israel, I think, has realized that it cannot defeat the combined armies of the Arabs in a prolonged war. So apparently they're looking for the Ark of the Covenant, which they believe is buried underneath and which they think is the only thing that will save them. But if, the Israeli general with the pirate eye patch, Moshe Dayan, when he captured East Jerusalem in 1967, his own president, I think it was Ben Gurion or somebody, told him that, I think you have started, this will lead to the Third World War. And I think he was right.
I take all that, Abdul, but here we have a situation where the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem is arrested by foreign gunmen and interrogated for 13 hours. Did you hear or see any of the world's Islamic governments doing anything about it?
No, not at all. There's this Saudi Wahhabi.
Can you imagine somebody arresting the Pope? Can you imagine, Abdul, somebody arresting the Pope or the Archbishop of Westminster, the police dragging him off for 13 hours interrogation? Not the police, foreign police occupying our country and dragging off the Archbishop of Westminster, and none of the Catholics saying or doing anything about it. It wouldn't happen. What's wrong with these Islamic leaders, Abdul?
I've given up on them. I think Pakistan and Iran should unite and form, a defense pact and take on. I think that's the only thing that will stop them from demolishing the Al-Aqsa Mosque to build the third Jewish temple. Apparently, they've even chosen the prophets, the priests, because they have to be from the Cohen sect, and they should have never been close to anybody who had died, because the angel of death would have visited. So everything is done. So, I'm just hoping that, nothing happens now that Bibi Netanyahu is in power again.
Okay, Abdul, thanks for that call. Uthman is on the line in Ghana. He wants to talk about both of our subjects, Syria and Israel. Uthman, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. George Galloway. How are you? Salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, please. I want to talk about Israel, Syria, and the Middle East.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. You're on the air. Go ahead.
The drama that we are facing today in the Middle East is what I want, and that is Palestine. And that drama is it has its own conflict from Israel, only Israel. And that conflict is being created by nobody but the Arab League. The Arab League is supporting and doing what it is trying to do to please the Saudis, to please the Israel, because they want to retain their own selfish regimes. Assuming, Palestine was part of the Arab community, but now it has been isolated. The Arab League has sold Palestine to Israel so that they can retain their own, selfish governments, where they continue to brutalize their own people.
Well, the Prince, Uthman, the Prince of Qatar, was just last week.
Yes, the Prince of Qatar.
He was giving away Palestine. He was, as if it was his own farm. He was giving Palestine away through John Kerry.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
On behalf of the Arabs.
I think so. So what is happening now today? What is happening now today in the Middle East? We can see the reflection in Syria, and it's now like an anticlimax coming down, and it will all boil down to Israel. Now Israel is now like what John Kerry said, that Israel will be no more in 10 years' time. This is the manifestation, and we're seeing the light right now. I think people who are sensible are seeing the light that in 10 years' time Israel will be no more because of their prolonged atrocities they are committed against the Palestinian people. Now, the light is that people are now seeing it, and people are now seeing the plight of the Palestinians all over the world. Even look at the church of what the church in Europe has now condemned Israel. I mean, because of what they are using, what they hide behind the Bible, saying that God has given them a promised land. Now, the church is even against the Zionism. I think it is a clear. Most people too don't understand the issue of the Palestine Israel. They think
no.
it is against
By the way,
Muslim
the Church of Scotland is about to produce an important report on this very subject, making clear that the promised land is not a place. The promised land is what we should be trying to build everywhere in the world. And that God's not an estate agent. He didn't give a specific plot to anybody, not least a plot on which other people were already living. Uthman in Ghana, thanks for the call. Let's go from Ghana all the way to Aberdeen in Scotland, where Zachariah is. Zachary, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. George Galloway. It's a very important information I have for you.
Yeah.
That the book is called Europe in the 19th and 20th Century, and the book was printed September 1947 and in Britain, and written by two professors, Grant from Leeds University and Harold Temperley, Cambridge University. It is regarding the whole system of the Europe from 1789 to 1939. In the part of the Germany, there is nothing about Holocaust, and it is written about origin of the Nazism, rise of Hitler, and everything. There is nothing about Holocaust, and these two professors, they are professors of the enemy of the Germany, Britain. So the book was printed in 1947, which means 2 years after the war. If there was any Holocaust, these two professors from the two important British university and the enemy of Germany, they should have written.
Let me answer you. Everybody at the end of the Second World War watched the newsreel released by the Soviet Red Army of the concentration camps which they had liberated. Everybody in the world, except you or whoever's teaching you, and I really don't want to hear from you again, everybody in the world saw the Belsen horrors, saw Dachau, saw Buchenwald, saw all these concentration camps. Everybody in the world knows that Hitler massacred millions of gypsies, of trade unionists, of Russian partisans, of European partisans, of homosexuals, of disabled people, of mentally handicapped people, and yes, of Jewish people. Everybody in the world knows that, except Zachariah in Aberdeen, who continually likes to foul this show. But it's the last time, I promise you. You are doing the Zionist enemy a favor with these kind of telephone calls. Can't you understand that? Can't you get that into your thick head that by denying this Holocaust, you are assisting Netanyahu, you are assisting the racist apartheid state of Israel? Can't you understand that? Let's go to Dubai and talk to Mohsen. Go ahead, Mohsen.
Hello, George.
Yes, brother.
Good evening to you. How are you today?
By the grace of God, I'm good. I'm firing on all cylinders. Go ahead.
Yes, I heard that. Just a quick, snappy comment. You know, some times ago, when Colin Powell launched the war and he gave this propaganda at the UN.
Yes, indeed. I remember it very painfully indeed.
And he said, I won't, who would give him the benefit of the doubt? I wouldn't, he said, and he flashed all those silly pictures. Yeah. Maybe he concocted at home on a laptop or something. Mm-hmm. But so
now he regards it as his worst ever moment. Unfortunately, sure. a million people are now dead because of it.
And the man has vanished from the scene. He, seems not to be there anymore.
Yeah.
Well, they use him and fire him. That's what they do all the time. But what I was really trying to say was that at that time, he said this and the whole world kind of believed it, went along with it.
Yeah, and don't forget Jack Straw. Don't forget his minion, his lapdog, Jack Straw, was saying exactly the same thing and based on exactly the same pack of lies.
Absolutely. So he was all believed and that was all good and fine. But when this lady from the UN says that the insurgents have used the chemical weapons, there's evidence, they now try and belittle her by saying that, oh, she's made a couple of errors in the past, so therefore she can't quite be believed. So these little errors are something that puts her down and takes away the fact. But that massive error is all okay, even today. That's amazing.
Very powerful point. And I knew that they were lying about the sarin used on a small scale in these last weeks in Syria. I knew that they were lying for a variety of reasons. First of all, why would Syria use a weapon that was guaranteed, if proven, to bring the house down on top of itself? Lose Syria the support of Russia and China? Why would they do that? What military advantage would accrue to Syria using on a small scale a few shells of sarin nerve gas? So I knew it was a lie. And when the United Nations rapporteur said, actually, if there's been any use of nerve gas, it's the rebels that used it, I felt it was a turning point. And I think it has helped bring the Americans to Moscow to ask President Putin to get them off the hook. That and the battlefield victories of the Syrian army, who have stood fast, who have defended not Bashar al-Assad, not the regime, who have defended Syria, Arab Syria, the Syrian Arab Republic, who have defended ancient holy Damascus. The balance has now turned. The tide has turned. The Al-Qaeda are on their way to defeat, and their patron-in-chief in the United States now wants off the roundabout. Mohsen, thanks for that call. Irfan is in London. He wants to talk about the state of the Ummah. So do I, Irfan. So do I. Go ahead, brother.
Good to speak to you again, George.
And you. Go ahead, sir.
How are you?
By the grace of God, good.
You've probably heard what's the developments in Bangladesh over the past couple of days.
Yes.
The protesters...
I'm speaking on Sunday night in Newham on this very subject. Watch out on Twitter for that.
Yeah, I'll definitely love to see you there. So the government lays siege to the protesters in Dhaka and cut off the electricity and randomly open fire with tanks, with helicopters and with heavy artillery against defenseless protesters. And this follows a spate of political abductions, of extrajudicial killings, of kidnappings, of politically motivated murders, and a whole spate of violence in Bangladesh. What do you make of the situation? And
well, I think that these are the last days of the so-called Awami League and the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. These days are ending in disgrace with the massacre of demonstrators, with factories falling down on top of their workers, factories owned by leading figures in her party. The death toll in the factory in Dhaka is now well over 800. And another disaster occurred this very day. So protesters are being murdered, workers are being murdered by their employers at their state of work through criminal negligence. And I think that Bangladesh is on the cusp of a revolutionary situation. And I'll be talking about it in Newham on Sunday night. Let's try and squeeze in Nasser in Dulwich in London on both the subjects we're talking about this evening. Nasser, go ahead.
Yes, good evening, George.
Good evening.
Yes, thank you very much. Anyway, there is something which a lot of people in the world missed it. When, what's his name, Terry White? He was kidnapped in Lebanon.
Terry Waite.
The whole world moved.
Yeah, Terry Waite, yeah.
You're talking about, I remember I went to Trafalgar Square and and protested. But now this mufti in Palestine, it seems like everybody went quiet. Now it must be a reason. I mean, I blame leaders, which is the puppet of the Zionists, not only in Palestine, don't forget Bahrain as well. A lot of people are dying there. Nobody mentioned it. We're talking Arab mentioned it. So it must be something powerful. Now the only way we can win, I mean we can defeat the Zionists, is the media. We should concentrate on media instead of Arabs concentrating on buying horses and business and etc. etc. So we
horses and football clubs, Nasser.
For
horses and football clubs and casinos and all the other waste of money that these people indulge in. You're right. What did the custodian of the two holy mosques have to say about the custodian of Al-Aqsa being kidnapped by foreign soldiers and interrogated for 13 hours? What did he say? What did he do? Precisely nothing on both counts. What did the Ummah and its leaders do? What did they say? Precisely nothing. Because they're concentrating on destroying the Syrian Arab Republic for the edification and the entertainment of Western governments and Israel. That's the truth of the matter, Nasser. That's the Muslim condition to which, God willing, I shall return next week. Join me. Bring someone with you. Until then, may you go in peace.
Hello, if you comment your name and the place you left that number, and just make sure that your television volume's set to 0. So 0. Can you spell your name for me? Yeah, I know. You redirectly put through the phone number, and then we'll call you back. Comment. And then can I have your telephone number?